Welcome to this event, and let's begin by sharing a 3-minute video clip to set the stage for our amazing guest.
Can humans find a time when they will allow space for what they don't believe is possible?
For 300 years, science has asked the question, is there a field of energy that connects everything?
Where do our thoughts go when we die?
Someday, there will be inventions in physics, and when they do, you will see that consciousness is energy. What human beings think collectively can be measured.
You have hundreds of thousands of molecules. They can exchange vibrations all over and around the field. This is chemistry, but it's a kind of dancing chemistry.
In consciousness, we can communicate and perceive anywhere throughout the entire universe.
Energy increased dramatically.
Distance does not matter.
The field is the origin of everything. And that's what the music is actually doing. It's connecting to the field.
An amazing result.
What is a thought? Thought is a particle of light. We can measure it.
Our thoughts are broadcast to the field.
What happens in one part of the field influences other parts of the field in the same instant. And this is deeply profound.
The data has even surprised us. We are far more interconnected and synchronized with the Earth's magnetic fields than we ever would have predicted.
Is Jerusalem on?
Jerusalem is on.
We have people from Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, Tunisia, Bahrain, Kuwait City.
This is so emotional.
We also have many thousands of people from all over the world participating on YouTube, all coming together for a historic event.
The peace is already here.
My name is Bruce Lipton. I started out as a young child with a Russian Jewish father in the United States in the McCarthy period. When I grew up in that McCarthy period, no matter how much they were against Russians and Jews, Albert Einstein was a hero of the world. And he was a Jew, and so Albert Einstein was my hero. That led me into science.
If you do a Google search on our guest today, he comes up 4.5 million times, so hardly any need to introduce him. But Dr. Bruce Lipton began as an American developmental biologist and a faculty professor, most notable for his views on epigenetics. And in his first best-selling book, The Biology of Belief, he claims that beliefs control human biology rather than DNA or inheritance. In his newer books, Spontaneous Evolution, Our Positive Future, and A Way to Get There from Here, and The Honeymoon Effect, The Science Creating Heaven on Earth, Bruce shares more of his knowledge and findings. Now, Bruce is more of an epigeneticist and a quantum physicist, but in reality, he's a major rock star, participant in countless interviews, documentaries, and films. But today we're focusing on his participation in the award-winning film, The One Field, directed and produced by C.P. Ras, which has been screened already in over 100 countries, translated into 11 languages, and participated in the famous Mira Film Festival and the Illuminate Film Festival recently in Sedona, Arizona. We are recording this interview for our Spanish-speaking audience in Mexico, Latin America, and Spain. And just to mention a few of our friends that are also seeking ways to bring content for a better way of life to thousands upon thousands, We always count with Nes Sertu from Sertu TV, Juan Lucas Martin, Veronica del Castillo, Robert Coxon, Lily Wong, Veronica Sanchez and Beatriz Rosa from Humanos Plus, and many more. And thanks to their networks, we will be making sure that this message goes long and wide to all the Spanish-speaking audiences in, well, basically in Latin America and Europe. So, Bruce, thank you very much for your time. It is always a pleasure to have you here. And, well, we do have some questions, and that have been actually made by people that have been watching the film already. And one of the ones to start the conversation is if there's a relevant memory or teaching from you or for you from that time while filming and participating in the One Field movie.
Well, for me, first of all, let me say thank you for this opportunity, Alex, to be with you, and especially with the audience, because the audience watching these videos are what we call cultural creatives. These are people looking for answers to a strange world, but not looking in the box, but looking outside. So I appreciate this opportunity to talk to this community of creative people looking for a better way of life on this planet. So that's my beginning. But what about action when being involved with the video, the One Field? What was really important is that sometimes you feel like a loner when you're out there alone talking about a weird world, a world that most people are not familiar with. But when you start to find that there's so many other people looking at the same world, but from a different angle and seeing the same story, is very fulfilling, because it says, what we've been talking about is real. It's solid. It's not new age talk. It's based on so many different observations, physics and chemistry and biology and psychology, all coming together to reveal how truly powerful we are and how we've been misprogrammed and have lost the power. Not that we don't have it. We've just been programmed not to express our power. And this video to me is very important, because it shows people in so many different insights from so many different angles, the same story of consciousness in creating our world. And so that's, reassuring and reaffirming when you find so many different approaches coming out with the same exact answer. And that answer is profoundly important, because it acknowledges we are creators. We're not victims like we've been programmed to be, but we are creators. And with knowledge, we can create a completely different world than the world of chaos that we have right now.
Thank you. And what do you feel is still or even more relevant today from what was shown in the film, which was produced a couple of years ago? And obviously now we have gone through a very, very challenging couple of years.
Yeah, well, it's very exciting for this reason. A lot of people are in fear. Why? The world that they have known for so long seems to be falling apart. Chaos is everywhere, a breakdown in all different kinds of areas, whether it's economic, social, religious, racial. It's a chaos world. And what's really important about this, and especially in the last year, is simply this. Science has recognized that human behavior has created what is called the sixth mass extinction of life on this planet. 5 times in the history of this planet, life was thriving, and some event caused a great upheaval and wiped out up to 90% of life 5 different times. The last time was, about 66 million years ago. There was a mass extinction when this world had dinosaurs and lush tropical forests, and all of a sudden a comet hit near the Yucatan Peninsula, a giant comet, and the impact of the comet caused the web of life to break down. All the dinosaurs disappeared, the forests disappeared, 75% of life disappeared, and then we started all over again. And now today, we find out that we have now caused what is called the sixth mass extinction. The 5 previous ones had nothing to do with human behavior, natural events like the comet. But today, we're in the sixth mass extinction, and science has recognized human behavior, the way we've been living on this planet, is undermining the web of life and threatening our existence. This is not a threat for 1,000 years from now. This is the threat that is manifesting right now, and we'll see it in the next few decades. We're in an upheaval. And I say, so why? And very quickly, the reason is this. The world and the culture that we have is not sustainable. That is why we are facing an extinction. We're destroying the world because of our behavior. And the point about it is this, that to evolve, we have to change cultural behavior. And I go, so what? And I go, the civilization that we've been living in is the problem. And that to move to a better, more thrivable civilization, you can't build it on the existing structure of the civilization. We have to break the structure so we can build a new civilization. So I say, so what's relevant? And I go, well, Alex, when you ask the question, what's going on here? And I say, the chaos, and especially this last year, as you emphasized with COVID, the civilization is breaking its structure. Business is not the way it used to run. Life is not the way it used to be. Changes are happening everywhere. And I go, yes, this is positive. It's a very important, because it says, in order to survive into the future, we cannot build it on today's world. And so when you see the world falling down, that's a positive sign, because it says, as it's falling down, we can build a new and better world. So since this video, the world is experiencing a lot of chaos, but that's the sign of evolution. We are in evolution right now.
Thank you very much. And just to wrap it up on this particular question, do you have any of this new information on your latest book, or is this still something that is still in the works?
No, this information in the book of Spontaneous Evolution, which is talking about evolution, the idea that most people believe, oh, evolution takes millions of years to see it. And I go, no, there's a new understanding of evolution. It's actually, the scientific name is called punctuated equilibrium. Big words. What it means is life goes along very, very beautifully, and then all of a sudden something happens, crash, and then it starts all over again. And so basically, what we're seeing is we are in an evolution right now, spontaneous. It doesn't take millions of years. It's happening right around us. Within the last couple of decades and the next couple of decades is either we move to a better, higher level of life, or we go downhill. And so I can't answer which way we're going, but I know we're in process. We are moving and changing the world right at this very minute.
Yeah, definitely a working process. And the connection between science and spirituality that you talk a lot about.
Yes.
And actually, you already touched upon this question a little bit before, but in the movie, there's a lot of cross technologies, cross sciences referencing music, vibrational tones, just the vibration of the energy, the stem cells, the neurons, all of that. Nothing new to you, but definitely it's a nice way to put it in on the big screen from CP. Anything that brought your attention after seeing all these scientists show on one single film, all these things that are happening and how that is going to help humanity as far as this new understanding, because it's not mainstream.
It should be mainstream. It will become more mainstream. But let's start with a very simple principle. Knowledge is power. People have known that for years. Let me say the same thing in a different way. A lack of knowledge is a lack of power. Okay, so I say, why is that relevant? Then I add one more fact. What we call a misperception, a belief that's not true, a misperception, is a lack of power. And we have been led to believe things that we are victims in a world that genes control our lives and life is out of our control. We're just victims. And I go, that's a misperception. Because if you buy that, you have been disempowered. And I go, why? Because we reveal that we are creators of this world. And therefore, we need knowledge. And I say, we have been misled by knowledge that has taken us away from the truth, which includes Newtonian physics. And I go, why is that? What's relevant? Newtonian physics, physics means mechanisms. Physics is the mechanisms of the universe. And Newtonian physics said, well, there's a physical part, matter, and the universe also has an invisible part, energy. And in that physics, they say energy does not involve matter. So matter is studied alone without energy. I go, well, here's the problem. Quantum physics said that whole story is wrong. Everything is energy. And that, why is that relevant? Because when we look at an atom and we say an atom is a piece of matter, and I go, yeah, but what is it made out of? And they say, oh, it's small particles, electrons, protons, neutrons, nucleus, all that. And I go, and what are those made out of? And that's where the world of quantum physics came in. Because when they looked inside those particles that make up the atom, those particles are not made out of matter, they're made out of energy. I go, well, what does that mean? An atom is a construction of energy, and an atom creates us. And I go, then what are we? I said, we're made out of atoms. Yeah, but atoms are energy. And I go, exactly. That this is an illusion, this physical world. It's based on energy and it's based on consciousness. And quantum physics from day one, 1927, quantum physics said, consciousness is creating our life experiences. And I go, so why is that relevant? And I say, we think we've been victims of the world affecting us without owning. No, we are creating the consciousness that creates our lives. And when we believe we're victims, that means we have no power. But now the truth is coming out. And Sippy's movie is a wonderful compilation of individuals studying the same understanding of energy and consciousness and human life. And all of those people come together and create a picture that, yes, we are creating this, but we didn't know it. And we've been programmed to believe we are victims. And when we get rid of that program, we actually manifest our creative abilities. And that's what we're looking for, more knowledge, because knowledge is power, and that's what we need right now.
Just to link it to this answer, one of the next questions from our audience is, how can people achieve a higher level of consciousness?
The way we have to understand this is, first of all, remember I said misperceptions take away our power. And I go, so here's a misperception. When we say the mind, it sounds like there's just one mind. And that's what we say, the mind. And I go, no, misperception. Why? There are two minds. And they work together, so it's called interdependent. And I say, what are the minds? I say, the original mind is the subconscious program. The newest evolution is called the conscious mind. They have two different functions, and they learn in different ways, but together they create consciousness. Like, so what's different? The conscious mind, the newest one, which is based on a piece of brain right behind your forehead, called prefrontal cortex. This is the seat of where your spirit, your source comes into your life. And I say the conscious mind is creative. It has imagination and can manifest reality from creating. I go, well, what about the subconscious mind? I go, that's the equivalent of a hard drive in a computer. It's got programs. And the unfortunate part about that is the programs in the subconscious mind mainly came from observing other people and downloading their behaviors. You watched your mother, you watched your father, you watched your family and your community. And when you were a kid under 7, just watching them is how you learned how to have behavior. You copied their behavior. So the subconscious mind has programs, but they didn't come from you. They came from everyone around you. And I go, so why is it relevant? Well, the idea is the mind is a creator. And I go, yes, it is. And we would like to say, yeah, I would create heaven on earth. And I said, well, then how come my life doesn't look like heaven on earth? I'm the creator. What did I do? And I go, because science has recognized we're not using the conscious mind, the spiritual connection mind. We're using the subconscious program 95% of the day. So our life is not expressing the creative wishes and desires of the conscious mind. Our life is a play out of a program expressing the subconscious. And the subconscious is programmed by other people. Well, I prefer to see health and happiness and love and harmony. What kind of programming did we get when we were children? This is a scary place. People are out to get you. Be afraid. Things are coming. Your viruses will kill you. All the kinds of stuff like that. And we learn to live in fear. Fear of our life being threatened by the world. And it's completely wrong because we're the ones that are creating the world. If we believe in fear, then we create fear. And what we have to do is understand the life that we live is not coming from the conscious mind. That's only 5% of the day. The life we live is coming from the subconscious programs that we downloaded before age 7 by watching other people. 95% of your life is not coming from your wishes and desires. It's coming from your programs that you acquired when you were before age 7. And it's interesting, the Jesuits have had a saying for 400 years. They told their followers the truth and people didn't understand it. And I say, what did they say? They said, give me a child until it is 7 and I will show you the man. I go, what does that mean? The meaning is simple. The programming of a child occurs from 0 to 7. And after that, 95% of your life is coming from that program. So whoever gives you the program, by definition, is shaping the rest of your life. So give me a child until 7. That's where the programming occurs. And then I will show you the man, meaning whatever program I put in, 95% of that person's life is coming from that program. And so we have been controlled. And this is not new knowledge. I said, hey, they knew this 400 years ago. And the idea is powerful people recognize that they can be powerful by making us weak, by programming us to be victims, by programming fear into us. We lose our power. And those that did the programming keep their power. And all of a sudden we start to see, my God, most everyone thinks we're just victims of the world. When, how can that be when science has also recognized we are creators? And the answer is the programs that we got in the first 7 years are the programs that shape our life. And they came from other teachers. And we didn't get very good programs. And that's why our lives don't look that good.
Is that what Cryan mentions in the film about the generational, the parents, the grandparents, all that programming coming into?
Let me give a good example of that. We always talk about cancer is caused by genes. Now, let me tell you a new research, okay? They studied what happens when a child who is adopted into a family where the cancer is running in the family. It turns out the adopted child in that family will get the same cancer as the family has. And then you go, wow. And I go, what's really important? The adopted child came from different genetics. The cancer didn't come from the genes. It came from the program of disharmony that was passed from parent to child. I said, well, how many generations? I go, this goes on for generation after generation until somebody decides not to pass on the bad programs anymore, because we have been programmed for years. I mean, the Arab-Israeli conflict, which is a major conflict. I said, did that begin yesterday? I go, no, that's been a couple hundred years. I go, when did it begin? A conflict that started a long time ago. But then the children from those people who were involved in the conflict were programmed by the conflict, and then they pass that on to their kids. And 200 years later, passing it on, the trouble between the Islamic community and the Jewish community is just a raw war. And I go, when did that start? I say 200 years ago, because the children have been passing on the anger and the distrust. that have been passed from parent to child for 200 years. And I said, so why is it relevant? How do you stop this? And the answer, well, there's an example. Two friends of ours, Ehab and Ora, Ehab being an Arab, Ora being an Israeli, married, and they found that they couldn't send their kids to the Arab school because it was biased too much. They couldn't send them to the Jewish school. It was biased too much. They couldn't even send them to the Christian school, which was biased. So what did they do? They created a nursery school called the Garden of Abraham, which brings Arabs and Jews into the same school as kids. I go, so what was the result? These kids live with each other. They play with each other. They share language with each other. They grow up playing and liking each other in harmony. And I say, why is it relevant? Because it's not in their consciousness to even hate each other, because that's not part of the education. So there's a new generation of children growing up with a different belief system. That's how we stop the wars. That's how we stop the problem. The wars and problems are because we're not living in harmony. And the lack of harmony didn't come from the genes. It came from parent to child relationships. And if we get a new generation of parents that I call conscious parents that teach love and harmony and respect and honor and all those wonderful things, then those children that learn those experiences will not generate war, pollution, problems in the society. They won't generate that because their programs are of harmony and love and health. And all of a sudden I said, well, the world is only the world is an expression of the programs. So nature is calling on us today. Learn to change these programs, because it's the programs, not the genes, that are causing you the problem. And these are things that we can change.
Wow. Amazing and very, very important information. Thank you. Just connecting with this one, people are asking some signs that you have seen or experienced that show that someone is having a shift in consciousness or an awakening.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a personal experience. I've come from a non-aware. I wasn't aware of all this stuff. I was programmed like almost all other people were programmed with that old beliefs. But the moment I started to learn, my conscious mind, my awareness, my connection to spirituality said, oh my God, this is not the way we should be living on this planet. And it was interesting because my conscious mind, based on my research, revealed that just what quantum physics said, our consciousness is creating our life experiences. And I saw that and I became aware of it. My conscious mind, the creative mind, said, oh my God, this is how you do it. And I was so excited. I wanted to tell everybody about the new science that showed me that we can create the most wonderful life. So I get a bunch of people in the room and I say, I want to tell you how to create the most wonderful life. And they looked at me and they go, Lipton, for a guy who says you know how to create this life, your life doesn't look so wonderful. And I realized something that was so important. My conscious mind had all the knowledge, but I was living my life with my programs. And the conscious mind's knowledge did not change the program. So my conscious mind was real smart. We can create health and happiness and heaven on earth. But my subconscious mind was still playing the old programs. And that's what they saw. I'm telling them how to create a wonderful life. And they're looking at me going, your life doesn't look so good. And the reason was, just because we become smart in the conscious mind does not change the subconscious program. And that is the biggest issue on the planet, because people don't recognize it's not a simple process to change the subconscious mind. I have a new idea. My subconscious just changed. No, that's not how it works. And so I had to learn how to take the positive beliefs, the story of creation, the heaven on earth idea, but I had to make it a program in the subconscious, because the subconscious is running the show 95% of the time. If I don't take my consciousness, the new wisdom, and make it part of the program, then my life doesn't show any of the new wisdom. And that's what people said. Well, you talk a good talk, Bruce, but your life doesn't look so good as your talk. And that was the wake-up call that said, if we want to change, it's not just becoming smart, but it's taking that new awareness and making programs in the subconscious. And that's the most important connection we need to do today. How do we change behavior? Change the subconscious programming.
And there are not pills for that.
What's that?
There are not pills for that. You have to work.
No, you have to do something. You see, well, here's what the problem is. The conscious mind is creative, meaning if I'm conscious and I learn something, boom, I just learned it. It's in there. The subconscious mind is called the habit mind. I go, why is it relevant? Because if its habit could just change at any minute, then it's not a habit. A habit means I'm going to keep this. And I go, and a lot of people say, oh, subconscious, that's where all the evil comes from. I go, no, the subconscious is like a hard drive in a computer. You got programs that work, great. You got a program with a glitch or a problem in it, then that program doesn't work. I go, it's the programs are good or the programs are bad. And I go, so the relevance is this, is that most of the programs that we got in that first 7 years take away our power. So when we start to operate our life and 95% comes from the program, we're not operating with our power. We're operating with somebody else's belief system, and they've taken away our power. And that's why we all feel like victims. And yet quantum physics, the most valid science on the planet, says your consciousness is creating. And then you look around and go, why would I want this? Why would I create this mess? And I go, because the consciousness that you're using is not from the conscious mind, it's from the program, subconscious mind. So we're living a world where we've all been programmed to live in problems and in disease and war and anger. And these are programs. And until we change those programs, we are part of the problem. But the moment you change the program, you become free and independent. And you can create heaven in the middle of hell because you are the creator.
We also have some comments from the audience saying that they have either experiences or they have seen it around, that some people go on a pendulum motion and they go to the other side of the spirituality and disconnect. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, the problem is this: how much time are we conscious and how much time are we using subconscious? When we use subconscious, we are the program. When we are conscious, we are creators. And so I said the average amount of time in a day that we're actually using our positive creation is 5%. 95% of our life is not. So I say, well, when I'm in the 5%, I can create heaven on earth. And here, give you a simple example. You could live every day of your life, blah, 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 blah. And then one day you meet someone of love. You fall in love. Just one day, you fall in love. 24 hours later, your life is not blah, blah, blah anymore. 24 hours later, you're living what is called a honeymoon. What's a honeymoon? Heaven on earth. You say, well, wait a minute. Every day your life was blah, 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 blah. And then you fall in love. And then 24 hours later, you have heaven on earth. Well, how'd that happen? And here's science knows the answer. You ready? The blah, blah, blah part of life is 95% of your life coming from the programs. But science has recognized when you fall in love, you stop playing the programs and you start creating with your conscious mind. And the conscious mind has wishes and desires. So what do you think? Two people who come together, stop playing the program. What are they going to create? Wishes and desires. What did they create? Heaven on earth. I go, so what was important? Heaven on earth is always here. It's only your program that prevents you from experiencing it. If you change the program, then heaven on earth, you can have every day of your life forever. It's only the program that takes us off. And yet the programs didn't come from us. They came from our teachers, our parents, and our community. And most of the program has taken away our power. We feel we're victims. And yet we're more powerful than anything on this planet.
Yeah, some of us have listened to your story, your personal story with Margaret, 22
yes.
years. And yeah, that's a living experience. And
well, for me it is, Alex, because I got my programming for relationships. Where did I get my programming from? Where did you get your programming about relationships? We got it from observing our mothers and fathers and their relationship. So the subconscious downloaded your mother and your father's behaviors. That's the plan of how to make a relationship. Well, my mother and father had a very bad dysfunctional relationship. And I go, so why is that important? Because I downloaded their behavior. And I say, so what was the problem? Well, when I was looking for a relationship, I couldn't find one, because if I used the same behavior my father used, all my partners would run away anyway. And I realized at some point I couldn't find a relationship for years. And then I realized, and this is one of the most important points for the audience, it really is, and that is, when we do belief change networks, like in my workshops, some of them, we do belief change. We test for a belief before we even do the belief change stuff. And we test for this belief, and this is the most important one. The belief is, I love myself. I go, why is that important? Because in every audience, over 80%, over 8 out of 10 people, 9 out of 10 people will not test positive for I love myself. I go, what does that mean? And it's the most profound problem for people on this planet. And that is this: if you don't love yourself, then be realistic. No one else can love you either. Why? Well, if you don't love yourself and somebody says, Bruce, I love you, and I know I'm not lovable, I don't love myself, and I hear they say to me, Bruce, I love you, and I look back and I go, well, you don't have any quality control. I know I'm not lovable. How can you say you can love me? And I will chase away that person. And when they're gone, guess what I'll say? See, I'm not lovable. Nobody is here. But I had to learn to realize that the criticisms that I received from my parents to try to shape my life in the first 7 years, that's what parents are doing. Well, when I changed those programs of the critical things, see, it's the critical things that you question yourself, not lovable, not deserving, whatever parents were saying, and we get those programs, then 95% of our life, what's our mind saying? I'm not lovable, I'm not deserving, I'm not worth it. And I go, those are the problems why 80% of the people cannot love themselves. I changed those programs. And the significance is, now that I was open to loving myself, I was now open to being loved by Margaret. And all of a sudden, the heaven on earth thing that, remember I said blah, 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 and then heaven on earth, and heaven on earth starts right after you fall in love like that? Well, it's 25 years I'm in the honeymoon. Why? I rewrote the programs that disempowered me, the ones that made my behavior not really very good or supportive. And I wrote them in a better, positive way. I changed who I believe I am. And the moment I changed that, then I became a creator of a new life. So for 50 years, I couldn't keep a relationship going. And for the last 25 years, I have a relationship that every day is living heaven on earth. I go, yes, I recognize now that A, I'm a creator, and B, I have problems with the programs that interfered with my creative ability. I changed the program. And now heaven on earth is every day of my life.
And you even wrote a book about it.
The honeymoon effect. It surprises me that I wrote a book about that for a guy who went 50 years and couldn't get a relationship off the ground. Then to write a book about heaven on earth, honeymoon, my goodness, yeah, because most people have experienced it for a very short time. I go, how come the honeymoon is a short time? I say, 95% of your life is coming from the program every day, blah, 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 blah. Then I said, when you fell in love, guess what? You stopped playing the program. You weren't thinking. You kept your creative mind creating. And I say, oh, that's called the honeymoon. But the moment you start thinking, the creative mind is no longer in control. When you start thinking, the job goes to the subconscious, because conscious mind thinking is not looking at the world. thinking is looking inside your head. So when you're thinking, you're not paying attention. When you're not paying attention, the subconscious becomes autopilot. And so the moment, that's why 95% of the day we play programs, because that's how much time we spend thinking. But when you fall in love, it turns out 90% of the day, you're not thinking at all. You're just being there in love. And I go, why is it important? Because if you're not thinking, then you still are the creator. The moment you are thinking is then you go back to the subconscious while the conscious mind's busy. So I say, well, how long's the honeymoon? I say, as long as you stay present, mindful, then you are creating from wishes and desires. But what happens at some point, people still have a life, a job, responsibilities, things they have to do. They start thinking. And I say, well, what happens when that person starts thinking? And all of a sudden I say, then they're not the people they are in their conscious creative mind. They become the program. And the program is usually very negative. So you start off in a relationship of love. How did love create so beautiful? Because no thinking, two creative minds became creative and manifested heaven on earth. But then down the road, when thinking starts to come back in, then the creative mind is no longer in control. Now we're back in control of subconscious. And all these bad behaviors that are in that subconscious, they didn't play during the honeymoon because I didn't play the program. But once they start playing, then these bad behaviors show up, and then your partner goes, who are you? Where did that behavior come from? Like, and the idea about that is that's when the honeymoon is gone, because the old behaviors start to come in and they ruin the creative ability that you had. So Sippy's video is so important because from every different direction that she offered with different points of view, they all point to the fact is we are creators. We're just unfortunately been programmed to not create from power, but to create from victim, that we're victims. And we create that. And if you create that, then your life is what? I'm a victim. And that's why most people cannot find heaven.
Well, and we're seeing that today, every day, with the lack, the health issues, all the programming today in every news channel out there, the lack of money, the lack of health, the lockdowns and all that. And that's major programming.
Well, Alex, this is so critical for this reason. When we would talk about any disease, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, we always say, oh, the genes cause these things. And now we know, no, that's not true. The genes cause less than 1% of illness on this planet. Less than 1% of illness. Can anybody say the genes did it? 90% plus of illness did not come from the genes. It came from consciousness or lack of consciousness, an environment that's not supporting us, our belief systems that do not support us. As I said, cancer isn't caused by a gene, it's caused by not living in harmony. Diabetes is not type 2, it's not caused by a gene, it's a very unhealthy eating style and lifestyle. That heart disease and stress are connected. That's where heart disease come from. It didn't come from genes. And so I say, so what's the relevance? I say, the world looks like it's in a lot of trouble. I say, and that's because all of us have bought into negative beliefs. Life is a struggle. Life is a competition. Life, you have to, that's threatening. And I go, wow, there's no peace in that consciousness. There's no harmony in that consciousness. And if everybody's threatened because they don't know, do I have enough money to continue? Is my job going to be there? If I get sick, can I get health care? All these different kinds of fears actually make us weaker. And the simple conclusion is why. And this is the whole conclusion. Stress causes hormones to be released into the blood called stress hormones. Okay, I go, so what's important? Stress hormones get you ready to run away from that saber-toothed tiger, that fear that there was some chasing us and we want to run. So you want all the energy in your arms and legs so you can run away from the fear. So when you're in fear, the stress hormones shut down the immune system. I go, why? The immune system uses a lot of energy. If you've ever been sick, you may not have had energy to get out of bed. You're so weak. So I say, well, what if a saber-toothed tiger is chasing you and you have an infection? I say, you want to fight the infection while you're running from the tiger? I go, no. If the tiger catches you, the infection is not your problem. If the tiger catches you, you're dead. So here's the point. The immune system is not needed if you're being chased by a tiger. So stress hormones shut off the immune system. And this is where ill health starts. Because once we start to shut down the immune system for fear of every kind of fear of rejection from a partner, fear of losing your job, fear of not having money to have a house, to live in, fear that the future is unknown, fear. And I go, and what is happening all that time? And I say, you're dripping stress hormones from the brain into the body. And what's it doing? Shutting off the immune system, actually shutting down the growth and maintenance of the body, because you're expected to run, but there's no tiger. So they scare you into the tiger, the media, the news, the whole fear of COVID, like it's the most lethal thing that ever happened. This is not true. 80%, 90% of the people that got the COVID never saw a doctor and didn't go to a hospital. Why? 80 to 90% of the people are stronger than the COVID. Yeah, but many people died. I go, yeah, but there's a difference. They were already weak. Their systems were not healthy. They've been living in stress. They express things like overweight. They express things like cardiac problems, heart problems. They have things like diabetes. I go, oh, they take all those little side things called comorbidity. Those are the side things that compromise your immune system. And your comorbidity could shut off your immune system. Now you're a victim because your immune system isn't working. Yeah, well, the large number of people that died from this didn't die because the COVID was a strong killer virus. They died because they weren't healthy to begin with. And rather than, giving the public the message, first get healthy, because if you're healthy, it's not going to be a problem. No, first, okay, wear your mask, stay away from people, don't do this, don't do that. And at the very end, they go, and get healthy. And I go, get healthy should be number one. And the problem is, it's our consciousness and our weakness that exposes us to the problems of this virus. The virus itself is not that lethal. No, it's the weakness of us, because we've been programmed to be victims. We've been programmed to be powerless. And when a person is powerless, they see no hope in their world from them. I have no power. And Sippy's movie brings leaders from all different fields together to reveal the same story, that it's the consciousness that either makes you healthy and happy and a wonderful life experience, or the negative consciousness that can cause you to have any disease and just die just because you believe that. And so it's the knowledge that Sippy offers. Knowledge is power. And the movie shows us powers that we were not programmed to even believe we have. And all of a sudden it says, wait, but if I can do all these things and I'm powerful, I go, yes, you are. And if you're that powerful, look, you can't walk across the hot coals unless you believe you can. If you don't believe you can walk across the hot coals, that you're going to get burned, then don't walk, because guess what? You will get burned. The only ones who don't get burned are the ones who have a positive thought. I'm not getting burned. Boom, walk across the fire, no burn. Does it really, people say, oh, it's not really that hot. And I go, well, almost at every fire walk, you're going to find some people that got burned. And I go, what does it represent? Well, the fire is real hot. What was different? Why did they get burned? Their consciousness was challenged, that there was some belief that they couldn't do this. And they proved it by walking on the fire, getting hurt, and going, yeah, I told you I couldn't do it. And that's how they got burned. But the other people walk across knowing, I'm not getting burned. And they walk across the other side. I say, Is it the fire? No, it's the consciousness that determined that.
Every question and every answer has been a pearl of wisdom. We're getting to the top of the hour. Just changing subject a little bit. I heard from you recently in another interview, that you were talking about spirit and matter and the chocolate effect.
Yeah.
Please share that with the audience.
I have to say that it was the most exciting moment in life, and it just happened like in the shortest time, like a minute. Okay. And I go, what was this minute? And I go, as a conventional scientist, I didn't believe in spirituality. That's not in our world. Conventional science, genes control your life. Spirituality doesn't even exist. You can't even use the word spirituality in a science presentation. And I say, so what? And I say, well, when I was studying these cells, there was a moment where I realized, how come two people are different? There are no two people the same. I go, what does that mean? I go, simple fact. You cannot take cells out of your body and put it into another person's body, because when you put your cells into their body, their immune system will say, not self, and eliminate the cells. So I say, well, what does this mean? I say, everybody's cells have an identity to them. There's no two people with the same identity. I say, yeah, but all of my cells share the same identity, except for the red blood cells. They don't have that identity. That's why we can exchange red blood cells, no problem. But all the other cells in the body have identity. And I go, well, what is identity? And I go, there's receptors, like little antennas on the surface of the cells. And no two people have the same set of what are called self-receptors. I go, what does that mean? I said, each one of us has a set of antennas on our cells that no other person has. And I said, well, that's what makes us different, the antennas. I go, no, the antennas receive a signal. Ha! And I go, oh my God, the self that affects the self-receptors, the self is the broadcast that is picked up by the antennas. It's not the antennas, it's the broadcast. And I said, I'm not in my own body. I am a broadcast energy field that my receptors can receive, like antennas. I receive this station. Alex, you have a different set of antennas. You receive a completely different broadcast. No two people have the same broadcast. Well, the broadcast is, each one of us is our own. I say the broadcast is the equivalent of who we are. The body is like a suit, a virtual reality suit. And we come into this and are picked up by the antennas, like a remote control. My body is controlled by this broadcast, and we call the broadcast spirit. And I said, well, wait, if there's a spirit, then why do I need a body? I asked a simple question, science. I just realized there's a spirit. There's a broadcast being picked up by these antennas. I go, then why not just be the broadcast? Why not just be a spirit? I asked that question. And the funny part was the answer came from 50 trillion cells in my body. The answer came up into my head. And it was kind of funny because I asked, why have a spirit and a body? Why not just be a spirit? And the cells brought into my mind a question. The cell said, Bruce, if you're just a spirit, what does chocolate taste like? And for a minute, all of a sudden I said, oh my God, this is a machine, a suit. I have vision, I have hearing, I have smell, I have taste. I can feel things like emotion and anger. I go, oh, the body is creating experiences. And the experiences are understood in my nervous system. And I go, so the experience is like a picture of a landscape, a chocolate. My brain doesn't see chocolate, it tastes the chemistry, but the chemistry is an energy. So my brain doesn't see the real picture. My brain doesn't taste the real chocolate. It just gets the energy from the body of what that experience is. And then we used to think our thoughts were in our head. And I said, oh yeah, we used to put wires on a person's head. It's called electroencephalograph, EEG. I could read your consciousness inside your head with these wires on you. But there's a new technology called not EEG, MEG, magnetoencephalograph. And I go, what does it do? I said, it reads your brain consciousness. I go, really? I said, what's unique? I said, the probe is out here. I said, wait a minute. This probe out here is reading the consciousness inside my head? And it goes, yeah. I said, how's it doing it? And the answer is, the consciousness is not staying inside your head. The consciousness is broadcast back to the field. So if I put a probe out here, I can read your broadcast. Your consciousness is going out into the field. That's how it interacts with the other things in the field to manifest your life. Your consciousness broadcast into the field is shaping your reality. You change the broadcast, you change the reality. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, we are so powerful. And yet we believe that we're victims, that things of bacteria affect us, COVID affects us. And it's like, nah, we are creators. And that's the simple point.
Greg, evidently you're not a one-word answer guy.
True or false? Give me a true or false question. Then there's one word, true or false.
Yeah, I'll give you the chance to do it again. But one word, just to let the audience stay with that. And as I said, just every single answer has been amazing. This last one was priceless, and the same with all the other ones. But one question, one word. What should we leave the audience with?
One word?
Or
creators.
Two, or 100, whatever.
Okay, I'll give you a couple words. The most important thing is we are not victims of the world. We are creators of the world. The victim we see is a program. And we could run the program, which we do 95% of the day, or not run the program. And when we're not running the program, then we become the creators that we actually are. And that's how we can create love and harmony and health on this planet, to let go of the bad programming that says I'm a victim, because we're all creators.
And that is the last word from Dr. Bruce Lipton today.
Alex, thank you so much for letting me be on this program with you.
Thank you. And please let us know when you're coming by Mexico. We'll definitely like to have dinner with you or something.
I'd love that. I had some wonderful presentations in Monterrey and in Mexico City, and the people were so wonderful because they're ready for, give us a new story, because the old one doesn't work very good.
And for all the audience, very easy, www.brucelipton.com. So please check the events coming, the physical ones, the remote ones, the books. Just such a wealth of information and fun to be with you, Bruce. Thank you very much. And until next time, thank you.
Thank you, Alex. And my final special thank you to our audience, because you're the ones that can make all the difference in this world. Take your power back. Thank you.